people to follow us. My name is Cheryl Soon, and I am the project manager for this project for SSFM International. We are a consultant company with about 10 offices. I work from the Honolulu office. Also on the call here is Joanna Herkes. She's with our Hilo office, Austin Drake with our Hilo office, and Kara Kadota from the Honolulu office is kind of manning all the levers. We were contracted several years ago to prepare the Hawaii County Transportation Master Plan. It was a public input intensive effort. It covered multiple modes, so it wasn't just bus, it was bus and bicycle and paratransit, and looking at all different ways that the community could participate, not just by driving. The county head of the MTA is Brenda Carrera, and she's going to speak in just a moment. She came on board about 2 years ago and has been doing a fabulous job. But one of the recommendations, and let me also please introduce Linda Freistacke, who is with a company she owns herself. It's a women-owned business, and she consults with transit agencies all around the country. Together, we prepared the Multimodal Transportation Master Plan, and we made the recommendation that the route system across the island would be converted into a hub and spoke system. And we're going to go into that in a moment when I do my presentation, what it means for riders, what it means for efficiency in the organization. And one of the outcomes of that is that Kona is an important location for being one of the hubs. We already have a hub in Hilo. We're working on a hub in Hoa. And the Kona hub looms large in terms of where we'd like to see the transit system moving. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Brenda and let her tell you a little bit about what she's been focusing on and how this project fits into that.
Hi, everyone. Again, I am the current mass transit administrator for the County of Hawaii. I am thrilled to be here today. And I thank everybody and I welcome everyone for participating today and throughout this time, because it will remain open for a while. We definitely want to have the input from the community as to where this hub is going to be. One of the biggest challenges that I had when I first started, still there, is the shortage of new county buses. And that was the main thing. And then making sure that our routes were running are reliable, that we were able to service everyone. When the pandemic hit, what I would say is at least we kept our routes going, and that was the main thing. We wanted to make sure that it's safe for everyone to do the social distancing, wear the face mask, but to still continue to operate all of our routes, and we have succeeded in doing that. We've only canceled routes that had zero ridership. And that was the big thing. We're here to serve. We are here to serve the people of this island. And I thank you all for participating, for continuing to care about the Big Island. But we definitely want your input as to where the sites were in the hub, in the flyer that came to you. But we want to hear from you. But I'd like to especially thank SSFM International, Cheryl, Joanna, Kara, Austin, and Linda. We've actually worked for them when I first started December 1st, 2018. A wonderful group and have been such a great, tremendous help. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Brenda, do you want to say anything about the grant that you got for Kona?
Okay, well, the grant that we're working, one of the grants that we're working for is to have the Kona maintenance facility. We're looking at that. We have, we also in Kona, we're working on with.
Hey, kitty. It's a human in a box. How strange.
Oh, Becca, do you want to mute yourself? Sorry.
Just want to also, with the alternative energy, to be able to bring in the hydrogen buses. That's something definitely we're looking for in Kona that will be happening this year very soon. But I also thank the council members that they've been so interested in wanting to help the mass transit and get us on track. So I really appreciate that. And we continue to ask for grants all the time. And the Federal Transit Administration with the Department of Transportation has been great. And we're still waiting for some other awards or to see from the FT and the DOT. And we also are applying for more grants and we'll continue to do so. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good, Brenda. Thank you very, very much. So a little overview of what we'll be doing today. We will be going through two PowerPoints. The first PowerPoint is an overview that explains what a hub is. The second PowerPoint gets right into the details of the 11 sites that we have identified right now. These same PowerPoints are located on our website, konahub.info, and that hub will be up until April, Kara, help me here a little bit, 20th? 20th, okay. So you are able to.
April 24th is correct.
24th, okay, thanks. You're able to give your input in many different ways. You can give it today. You can write it, if you don't want to speak it, you can write it into the chat. If you want to speak at the end of either of the presentations, there is under the reactions button, there is a yellow raise hand. So if you push that, then I'll know you want to speak in a way that everyone can hear what you're asking or saying. You may also put your comments onto the website, but the website will come down on the 24th. So that will be your opportunity on this round of activity. This is our very first stepping out in terms of engaging the public. It will by no means be the last, but it's the opportunity to gather as much information as we can because you're living in the community. You may know of a site that we hadn't come across. We'd love to hear about that. Or you may know something about this site that makes it a wonderful candidate or not, a not so wonderful candidate. So we're looking for all that kind of input from you. So that's how we're going to proceed today. And unless there's any questions about the organization of the meeting, then I'm going to go ahead and start with the first PowerPoint. So I don't see any hand raises. And Joanna, are there any things in the chat that need to be addressed before we move forward?
Yes, they're asking for the website address, which I'll type it out so that everyone
Okay.
has it.
Joanna will respond to that in the chat box. Okay, so Kara, let's get started. Let's go ahead to the first PowerPoint. Okay, now first slide. I guess it's the second slide. Kara? Okay, so MTA, the organization that runs the Helion bus system, has been changing for several years, improving it. You see here a picture of its new maintenance garage in Hilo that opened a couple of years ago. They've been actively replacing their old equipment. They've been working very hard to improve the reliability, the on-time reliability of the routes that are served. You were introduced earlier to Brenda. Personnel has been added for finance, records, and in the maintenance department. They're improving their communications internally and externally, and they're improving their options for bus route service. Okay, next one. So the multimodal transit and multimodal transportation master plan that I referred to earlier goes through visions, goals, and strategies. It addresses a multimodal program, including ride sharing, bicycle, and coordinating with the roadway programs, as well as alternate fuel programs of the county and the state. The transit survey recommendations, there's a whole chapter on that that includes how customer service can be improved, how we can get better schedule adherence, new types of service that I'll mention shortly, and the hub and spoke for each of the districts. There's also a chapter on capital program recommendations, including for the bus fleet, the maintenance program, bus stops and hubs, shelters and benches, park and ride, and signage. And these are displayed over a multi-year program, and they help guide the administration and the council in their budget decisions. So there's both a capital and a financial plan for the program. This multimodal transportation master plan was completed in 2018 and was accepted by the county council at that time. Okay, next one. So what is hub and spoke? This is a way of routing transportation through a central location or hub, that big yellow oval in the middle. The spokes are the routes that go in and out of the hub. By meeting up at a hub, passengers on the shorter routes, which are there with the smaller eggs, and using smaller vehicles, can get off and transfer onto a longer route, which uses larger vehicles. This makes the service more efficient than if the long route had to stop everywhere. This concept has been used by freight forwarders and the airlines since 2001. And in the past 10 to 15 years, transit systems have been converting to hub and spoke. Okay, next one. So for the Big Island, how many hubs would there be? There are 4 proposed: Hilo, Pahoa, Waimea, and Kona. They're all at different stages of development. There's already a hub in downtown Honolulu at the Mohoheo bus terminal. The passengers can wait there to board multiple bus routes and to transfer between routes. There's an information and ticket office. In the future, additional passenger amenities are planned. A hub is planned for Pahoa. It is currently undergoing environmental review of alternate locations. Two community outreach meetings were held in Puna in 2019. The hub for Kona is about to start the planning and community outreach phase. Due to COVID restriction, this public meeting is being held virtually. A future hub for Waimea is proposed. Next. So what would be the major lines for Kona under the hub and spoke system? Now, this slide reflects the recommendations of the master plan. It is not, it includes current routes as well as future proposed routes. So some of the current routes are routes 1 and 2, Route 75, Route 90, and what we call Route 201, which is the Inter-Kona circulator. But the master plan calls for additional circulators running through different parts of the Kona hub. The master plan also calls for 2 express lines in and out of Kona. And by express line, I mean with just very few stops. And what we call the Green Line Express would go back and forth to Waimea with just 4 or 5 stops. And the Blue Line Express would be back and forth to Kona with a similar number of 3 or 4 stops. So obviously it's faster when you don't have to stop as many times. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So this is a picture of the routes that I just described from the previous conceptual drawing, and it's overlaid on a map of Kona. I'm not going to dwell on this, but this is contained in the master plan, and the master plan you can find at the county's webpage, and you can find the Kona service on page 61 of the master plan, and we encourage you to go ahead and look for that. It's also available in all of your public libraries. So you see circulators going down into the community. Some of them are roads that the bigger buses have a harder time traveling on, but it also connects a long series of shopping locations in terms of, things like Costco, or as well as medical facilities. In reviewing this, you can see, as you all know, that the Kailua-Kona transit service area is rather long and relatively narrow. The bus route concentrations start at airport on the northern end and go down to Ali'i Drive on the southern end. As you can see, the center of service has concentrations for shopping, business, employment, and recreational opportunities. Kona Commons is located in this area, and new development is proposed adjacent to Kona Commons. Okay, next one. So this is a graphic, an aerial graphic of the Kona commercial area. And it starts to show how we need to weed both bus stops and a bus hub into both areas that are currently built up and what we are aware of are serious proposals for development in the community, such as Kona Commons. So the next one, please. The location and figures of a hub anywhere, in the United States, is that it should be in a central location close to business, schools, and shops. We need 1 to 5 acres, depending upon its configuration, with utility connections to water, sewer. There may be multiple shelters and benches at each location. There may be multiple pullouts for the buses to wait and load. That depends on the services being provided. It needs proper signage and lighting for safety. It needs a place for passengers to be dropped off so that they can connect with the transit service. And it needs locations for taxi, Uber, or Lyft type services for them to pick up. And it possibly can include, and this is optional, park and ride spaces, or park and ride spaces could be in a separate but walkable location. And the possibility of bathrooms. This is always a topic that the local community needs to decide if they want to have bathrooms or not. Okay, next slide. This is an example of a hub in Waianae on Oahu. You can see that it's kind of a horseshoe configuration where the buses come in and follow the arrows, or they can pull into one of those jags on the right and pick up or let off passengers. They will be assigned according to the route number with proper signage. You can see on the left side a picture of a shelter in one of the waiting areas. You can actually, if you look closely, you'll see 2 or 3 of them. There is a shelter at every pull-in location for the bus, but it allows them to pull in, get out of the way for someone going by them, but it also allows them an easy exit. This particular hub is about 1.43 acres, and it has 8 buses that, bus lines, bus routes that service it. It has 1 portable toilet and 1 ADA, American Disabilities Act, portable toilet. And it is beside a shopping center, the Waianae Shopping Center. Okay, next example. Oh yeah, this is just some examples. There's a nice sign at the Waianae Transit Center, and behind it, there's a clock tower. The clock tower is a little bit marred by a coconut frond, but that's not a flame or anything. That's or part of the design. That's just happens to be coming from the tree nearby. A picture of the shelters. In this case, instead of having benches, they have these upside down drums that people sit on. And the signage will tell them which routes, if they're standing there, which routes will come into that particular bay. Okay, let's go on. Another example is what we call a pullout hub in Mililani on Oahu. This is right beside the Mililani Shopping Center. It's actually 2 levels. It's less than 1 acre in size. The 2-level structure has an elevator and a community conference facility. The bus bus patron parking is available on the lower level, which is the level where the shopping center is. There are 9 bus routes that come in and out using this particular transit center. It's also right across from the high school. And there are 2 bathrooms, one for male and one for female. Okay. So some of the features are, there's a, the roofing is porous, you can see through it, it's not just solid. They also have the drum seating. You see here the bathroom on the left, lower left. You see the elevator in the middle, lower middle, and you see a staircase with some nice ironwork on the lower right. Okay. So we're here today to talk about what's best for Kona. Where should it be located and what features should it have? I'd like to pause at this point and entertain any questions or observations you wish to make either on the chat box or by raising your hand regarding hubs in general or hub, not the location comments. We'll get to them in just a minute, but I'd like to see your comments regarding hubs. Kara, I think, can you, yeah, I was gonna say, I'm trying to get them. Okay, I'm looking, and I don't see anyone with a raised hand, but do I have any comments in the chat box, Joanna?
No, nothing at all, Cheryl.
Okay, if there is nothing, then we will move on to kind of the thing you've all been waiting for. Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I do have a question that came in. Has funding been secured for Kona Hub? And if so, what would that be?
Funding has been secured for planning and design, but beyond that, Brenda, I don't know if you have construction money yet.
No, it's only planning and design, but in our capital improvements that we're looking for, part of all the money that we had on the side was for the hubs, including Apahoa and Kona. A lot of it has to do where the location is and what kind of building we're gonna have, but at least we have enough for the design. Planning.
Okay, and then I see another question was, what is the realistic timeline for building? I would have to say, I don't see it happening before 3 years because it's going to take a while to resolve your preferred location. And then you'll need to do an environmental assessment, comparing sites and making sure that there is no reason why it can't be built, no environmental reason why it cannot be built there. Then it would take 1 to 2 years to do the actual design work and followed by bidding for construction. So that's 3 years is the earliest, I think, that you could imagine it, but that will depend on the degree of consensus everyone has about location and about the features to be located there. Good question, Nancy, thank you. Okay, I don't. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So let's go on, Kara, to the next PowerPoint. So let's go to the next one. This is a repeat of the slide that was in the first slideshow, and it shows the existing and the proposed routes. So, okay, so here's a question, you know, to be contemplating as we go along with this. We have proposed a number of circulators, 4 to be in particular that we've numbered 201, 202, 203, 204. And we have proposed those express lines between Waimea, Kona, and between Hilo and Kona. So we would want to build whatever we build in a manner that as those routes started being implemented, that they could be serviced from the Kona facility. But right now, you may only need, say, 3 bays, but you may ultimately want to have 5 bays. So those are part of the considerations that we put in to both how to design it and where to locate it. Okay, let's, and plus, I guess I just want to make a comment that you can't just plop it down on any vacant piece of land. Some of the sites in our list are not our favorites. Because just thinking only about the bus, in order to get to them, the bus would have to backtrack to get to them and then move forward into its route location. So in other words, it's not directly on the line for some of the more prominent routes. And therefore, it's not ideally suited, just although it does happen to have a nice piece of vacant land. So again, trade-offs that take place. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So your Kona Commercial District is going to be very high on our list of locations because it's bringing people where they want to go for their jobs, for shopping, for business, for medical reasons. And so you will see a lot of the sites have been populated in this area. Okay, let's go on to the next one. I went over this slide in the last one, so I'm not going to repeat it. But again, we will get to the point where we need to resolve what kind of features are there, what kind of utilities are necessary, and making sure that it is close as possible to all the places where our riders want to go. Okay. So this is the beginning of I think it's a couple of pages long. This is a summary of the alternate site locations, and I'm going to show you this, and then I will go back again and go through them one by one. So site 1 is at the old airport. There's 14 acres available, and it is owned by the state of Hawaii. Site 2 is in the back of Kona Commons near the Ross's Dress for Less. There's got to be a decimal point error there. I think it's 8.65 acres, and it is owned by Liliuokalani Trust Estate. Site 3 is in the back of the KTA Superstore. It's a little less than 4 acres, and it is owned by Liliuokalani Trust Estate. Site 4 is in the back of the West Hawaii Today building. It's a little over 3 acres, and it is owned by Lanihau Properties and leased by Tony Hawaii Kona LLC. Site 5 is the park and ride lot near the King Kamehameha Hotel. It's a little over 4 acres. It is owned by HKK Hawaii, and it is leased by, I think I'm pronouncing it right, Breet Kona Property Developer LLC. And I just will mention it now. We have a comment in the chat. Will my recording be posted to the website? Yes. It'll probably take us a day or so, but within the next 24 hours, Kara will have it posted to the website, because obviously it goes on. You can capture the question. It's a little more than just going through it on your own. So yes, thanks for the question. Can we go on to the next one, which is going to be site 6? Okay, site 6 is a location between Kuakini Highway and the Kaina Lane. It's across from Alohi Road. And collectively, it's about 2 acres, but it has a number of owners, primarily the County of Hawaii, but also the state of Hawaii. So it's got a lot of TMKs, but they could be joined together in some fashion to make it suitable. Site 7 is within the proposed New Malo Marketplace development. which has about 20 acres, and it is owned by Kona LLC. Site 8 is across from the Umala Marketplace development, east of Henry Street. It is 4 acres, and it is owned by Kirkadia Management. We were informed yesterday that the owner of this site is proposing it for a hotel, and so it is probably not available on our list for that reason. Site 9 is the former Kmart, about 11 acres, owned by Lilio Kalani Trust Estate, leased by Troy CMBS Property LLC. Site 10 is Makalapua project. Again, I think the acreage is off here, but there's about, there are multiple parcels with a variety of acreage to them. They are, I think they're all owned by either Lilio Kalani Trust Estate or by the Queen Lilio Kalani Trust. So I assume that they work together. And then site 11 is off of a new road connector between the subdivision at Keahole near Huggos. And it has between 4 and 5 acres, owned by jointly by, or different TMKs owned by KPC Villages LLC, by Bernice Pawahi Bishop Trust Estate, by JYZ Partners, who's the lessee, and Cascabella Land Equities. So we're going to move on a little bit to start talking about them one by one, but this information is available on the website through this PowerPoint. Okay, let's go on, Kara. And this map shows all of the locations outlined in red. So you can see how they hover in the Kona Commercial District. And I'll let you kind of focus on that. But again, this map is available to you through the PowerPoint on the website to show how they are in relationship to each other. Okay, Kara, let's move on to site 1, which is at the old airport. And in the lower left, this is owned by the state of Hawaii. In the lower left corner is the street view from Makala Boulevard looking towards Kuakini Highway. And the site of interest is hashed in red. It's about 2 acres, and it sits at the end of Makala Boulevard at Kuakini Highway. So I'm going to pause on this one and take any questions or comments you wish to have on this one, site 1. And somebody, Joanna or somebody, Austin, somebody needs to have the gallery view to tell me if anyone's raising their hand, because I can't get the full gallery right now.
No one right now.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone in the chat?
No.
Okay, then we'll go on to site 2. Site 2 is the back of Kona Commons, owned by Lilio Kalani Estate Trust. On the lower left, you see the street view from behind the Ross's Dress for Less shop. And on the right, you see its location in relationship to Makala Boulevard. So I'll entertain any questions or comments. Anyone with a raised hand?
We have
Okay.
a question coming in.
I have a comment from Nancy Sakamoto.
That's it.
Okay,
The site
Nancy,
is transferred.
do you want to repeat it for everyone, although they can find it in the chat, but if you don't mind repeating it?
This site has plans for future development by LT. It is also an area that would be congested and not ideal for a hub.
Okay, any other comments? Congestion's not a bad thing for a hub. So where people are collecting. Nicole, yes, you may speak.
Hi, thank you. I'm actually wondering if you guys have done like a side-by-side assessment of like, I don't know, whatever the different criteria would be, the pros and cons of each site. It's kind of hard to go through them one by one and have separate comments on each one as opposed to kind of looking at them all together.
Well, that will be our next step. We do have some analysis that we have done, and we have the format for how we'll be comparing them. And as what you've seen so far is we compared the acreage, we compared the ownership patterns, etc. But at this stage, we're looking for information from the public that they would want us to know about as we consider the comparisons.
Can I make a comment on that? And I can't stay on too long, so I won't monopolize time here.
No,
I think that one of the considerations should be, you know, making sure it's getting people where they want to go. And I don't know if the hub will then have spokes that go more into like downtown Kailua. I know that I saw comments coming to our office with concerns. I think one of the sites mentioned had been one of the parking lots that's right in the center of town at the intersection of Ali'i and Hawaiʻi. And I understand the concerns about losing parking. I'm not advocating for one side over another. I think that the Kona area has never had a functioning mass public transit system really. And so there's a concern about losing parking because parking is, you know, driving individually is all that anyone's used to doing. We've never had a functioning system that really gets people where they want to go conveniently. So I don't want it to end up being too far out of town, or, you know, that it feels still inconvenient. That's one of my big concerns, because it would be great
Nicole,
to take tourist cars. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Identifying yourself for
Oh,
people
sorry,
listening?
Nicole Lowen. I'm the state representative for District 6. And I also, Cheryl, I think when I went to grad school at UH for planning, and I think I sat in on a presentation you did about your dissertation. So I thought I recognized the name. But yeah, I think, you know, I heard at the beginning, you know, Brenda mentioned the cutting, you know, any of the routes that never had good ridership. Well, we've never had a system in place that encourages good ridership. It's never been convenient. It's never been an experience people have had. And so I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as we move forward, that if we make it if it's still inconvenient, if the routes aren't frequent enough, if the locations aren't convenient enough, then, you know, we still won't have ridership and people will say, oh, mass transit, it doesn't work. Which I don't think is true. So
Well said.
thank you. I'll have to get off soon. But thank you.
If you look at the map of the proposed routes, and if you look at routes 201, 202, 203, 204, those are the circulators that should get people where they want to go. Only 201, and it's not even called 201, it's called Intra-Kona, is in place today. The other three are proposed and would probably come at the time that you have the hub ready to receive it. And we have another comment from Jack Gaw. If you don't mind my reading it, Jack, you can just chime in. Has a formal opinion survey of actual Helion riders been done? No. We did one when we were doing the master plan, but not for this project, at least not yet. He thinks it's important, we agree, but not yet. Okay, let's move on to site 3 then.
Cheryl, someone had their hand raised.
Okay.
Hi.
Stefan?
Can you all hear?
Yeah.
Hi, yeah, this is Stefan. I just want to second what I think Nancy just raised. I have an apartment on Henry and Kuakini, actually Henry and Kuakini, right on that corner. Spent a fair amount of time here in the past 3 years. So those sites are all intimately familiar, in fact, in the backyard. And I wouldn't say it's quite as dysfunctional. I use all the routes now, both number 175 and number 90. It's actually Growing up in Europe, having been raised on public transportation, it is not a great system. It's somewhat worse than Hilo, but it's somewhat usable. But one of the dysfunctions is what Nicole has just pointed out, is there's too much focus on this whole Kona commercial area. Even on the long-term routes now, since Roberts took the contracts over, even the Kona Hilo buses, for some weird reason, end up in that target Kona commercial area. And it's rather unlikely that people will go there, because people who really go shopping, right, they would probably have to drive, because how would they be able to even carry things out of Ross or out of Target and so on? So it's not completely realistic to think that people's focus is going to be on that area. And then there's another issue. If you look at the overall Kona area, it's changed rapidly in the last few years. It used to be sort of a cute little village, but it's now more looking like a Santa Cruz or Monterey, California, is where you have a lot of urban sprawl and sites are becoming more and more distant. And what you see happening is that the traffic is off the charts. So Henry used to be somewhat quiet in 2018. It is now the most busy street in town where it comes down onto Kuakini. And so I'm hoping that mass transit can be one of the solutions, right, in the future. And the built environment, I think it can have a big influence on people. So I think what was asked right now, can we understand who would use it and their needs would be good? It would be tough, because the Hill-on ridership, in my experience, is extremely diverse. It's still by most workers, students, but more irregular. A lot of students drive. And then of course, Kupuna. But then Kona is quite different from Hilo, right? You have way more Kupuna on the buses in Hilo, say Keaukaha route, and so then you'll have on the Kona routes. So I would hope we can have something in the sites 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and not 1, 2, 10, 9 off towards Kona commercial area. I don't think that would be functional, because look at it this way. When you're coming from Hilo, you're already on a 2.5-hour bus ride. Are you then wanting to wait for another half hour to catch a connection to go into downtown? Not very appealing. I wouldn't. Or you could walk, but the sun in Kona can be brutal. So I get dropped off a lot at Target, and even from Target to walk in, it's not always safe. There are no good options to walk from Target into King Cam or into any of the central areas. So I think a pull-out hub configuration is definitely better than the other hub that you see on the mainland a lot with the loop, because it can be on a smaller site. And Moehaua Hilo is a wonderful hub.
Mhm.
You know, it's a better hub than anything of the Oahu ones that you have shown, because it's got the village feel, and it's got benches, it's got toilets, it's got a police station, the mini police station, it's got security, it's gotten a lot better now. It has for a long time with the homeless problem been difficult, but you know, I go through it every day now, and it's getting an even better experience. I'm just hoping we can enhance that village feel, get back to that village feel in Kona before we lose it. And the biggest danger is Kona commercial area. Is if we draw too much attention over there, we're going to lose Kona village. It's already basically a tourist-only area, right? And if you look at a lot of the small shops down by the pier, they've been all empty during when the tourists weren't there. So what can we do to draw attention back into there? I would also challenge the assumption that a lot of workers in those shops use the buses. I barely see any Target or other workers at least on the long-term routes, on the long-distance routes. They will be on the intra-Kona routes, or come up from Kau maybe. So you can't assume that a ridership study would be helpful. And with that, I get off.
I agree with your comment, and I appreciate both of you making that. We will look forward to doing something. But in a case like this, where we are proposing a lot of new routes, we also want to get to people who are potential riders but not riding right now. So I don't think it's just riders. I think it's more than that, to see how we can accommodate the potential need, not just the existing need. But great comments, Stefan. I took a lot of notes, and I know we have it recorded, and we'll be going back over this again.
But I still want to challenge you in terms of why do you think that commercial areas are going to give you a lot of potential riders? You know, I mean, people who have
Because of
pickups, they will
workers.
shop using. Yeah, I don't see that because being on those buses, you don't see a lot of people that unless you force them by sending the bus to Target and to these areas, they just won't use it there. Yeah. Except for Kupuna, that's correct. But even for them, it's challenging because those sites are so dispersed. You know, just walking from Walmart to Ross now for an elderly person with a cane in the brutal sun is a challenge.
Yeah, I'd only just mention employees. We had a lot of comments during the preparation of the master plan to understand where employees are working and to make sure people can get to their work sites using transit. And that was one of the precipitous behind the recommendation for the express route between Hilo and Kona. Because right now you would have difficulty using it for job purposes. And while it'll still be a long haul, the direct line gives you an opportunity for an 8-hour workday while still using transit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to site 3. We can always come back, but let's move
Cheryl,
on.
we have a couple of, we have something in the chat room, and also Council Member Rebecca from Kona has her hand up to speak.
Okay, Rebecca, let's go to you then.
Well, thank you. Aloha, my name is Rebecca Villegas, and I'm the Hawaii County Council representative for District 7, which is where these hubs are being investigated for placement. I first off want to thank you ladies for your incredible work putting this together and your really diversified scope of looking at what the possibilities are. There are a lot of options here, and you're taking the time into consideration to be here. I had hoped there would be more people on the call today. I shared this long and wide, but unfortunately not as many. But anyway, I guess my couple of just 2 cents here, and I appreciate, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I jumped ahead to site 6, which is the one between Kuakini and Likana Lane. That current county parking lot is already an extreme challenge for the county to manage, and one of the only points of parking for people that want to go to the different stores and restaurants in the area. So transitioning that, I imagine seeing a lot more challenges than benefits. That's just one of my, since you have so many options, that's one low-hanging fruit that I would say may not be right in the top opportunities. My one question about site number 1 at Old Airport, that 2 acres, no, that's the old check-in site, right? For the hotel, I'm sorry, for the airport.
Yes.
It's the old like lobby check-in area. And currently, I thought that was currently being waited for SHPD reports for something for the county. I guess in my mind, I hadn't known on these other options. So in my mind, and from a lot of people I've talked to, this option is something that's really resonated with people. Also as a spot that you could put your kid on the bus to send them to a game, with small routes running around town and closer to some of the neighborhoods in the area. I see and am really excited about the opportunity for smaller buses running around town. I also got some input from residents in Holualoa, and while this doesn't necessarily include that when it comes to the hub, I just wanted to throw out an idea of doing a Holualoa route and the opportunity for getting visitors into that little community that has incredible cultural heritage, art galleries, art facilities at the Donkey Mill Art Center. So right along that corridor, all the coffee farmers and chocolate farmers, there's just a real wealth of experience in that area. And I had been working on a potential purchase of a parking lot in Holualoa that's been a little more challenging than we wanted, but there was even talk of doing some kind of a park and ride in that area because you have so many people in that rural community that if they could park and jump on it would need to be a smaller bus because of the width of those roads, but to catch a bus to town to get things done and then catch a bus back. I've heard a lot of excitement and enthusiasm from different people on
Great.
that
Good to
concept.
hear.
So that's all the notes I had right now, but I just wanted to get those in while I could.
Thank
And
you.
once again, thank you. And I'll just, be here with hopes for more oh, I see Maya from Donkey Mill. Yay. So I see this as a great opportunity to connect the web of experiences for those who live here, for not just those working and needing the bus to travel long distances, but for just a run around town kind of a thing. I think this is exciting and really forward thinking. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Very insightful and helpful. Shall I move on or do I? Am I missing?
We have another question in the chat room, Cheryl.
Okay, who's
Any
that from?
plans? It is from Jack Gao.
Okay.
Any plans to address the issue problems if it becomes gathering or homeless and vagrants?
Well, that becomes a design issue, of course, and a staffing issue. Being well lit becomes important. Having it near other activities rather on its own also creates a way of not attracting the vagrant who want to sleep there. But it's a challenge in all our communities. It's a challenge for all transit systems. Mm-hmm. And both whether or not we man the hub or we contract with someone to provide security, that's all ahead of us. But those are the typical methods that have been used in addition to obviously alerting the police, who are usually on top of these things anyway.
And my apologies, I just had one more. The one that's 11. For years, it's been my understanding that the county has been working to try and get another Malcolm Mackay connector between Ali'i Drive and Kuakini Highway, which would be O'Neill Lane, and that at the end of the last administration, a lot of progress had been made on that project. So because we have so many other great options, I would kind of recommend maybe looking at those because we really need more Malcolm Mackay connector roadways.
So you see site 11 as a positive in that regard or as a
I see
detriment?
the connector road, but not necessarily being the hub.
Okay.
In that location.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to start moving on to some of the other sites, but feel free to comment on anything as we go along. Site 3, the back of KTA Superstore, you see in the lower left, the street view at the intersection of Alapa Street and Eho Street. And we see its site location on the aerial view. So anybody want to comment on this one? And it's owned by Liliuokalani Estate Trust. Okay, then let's go to site 4, which is at the back of the West Hawaii Today property owned by Lanihau Properties. You see the street view from Kuakini Highway.
I'm sorry, I have one question about site 3.
Yeah.
The roadways here, when you're heading south on Queen Ka'ahumanu Highway, you would need to take a right onto, Eho Street.
Yes.
And then, Alapa goes both ways, but Eho is only one way. So I guess I would be wondering what the feasibility of that would be when even you'd have to go, you could only come in one way. There's no connection over to Palani, or would there be? Or
that would certainly be an important design issue. And if Eho remains one way, then you would have a one-way system using Palani and then taking a right and then taking a right again on Eho.
And you'd have to take Alapa or Luhia which is currently a four-way stop that gets quite congested. And then in order to go up to the highway, you have to go up that steep hill and then you can only turn right.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if something like that is,
Sometimes we have to reconfigure the whole streetway pattern.
okay,
This could be for buses only, or you know, we haven't gotten into this kind of detail, but it's an important consideration, and I've made a note of it, that the one-way street pattern is going to have to be
Okay.
part of the design.
thank you for tolerating my questions.
No, they're great questions. Okay, I'm going to go to site 4 then.
Sorry. Oh, thought I saw someone had their hand raised. Yeah. Stefan.
Hi, I have a quick hand raise. So site 3, just for those of you who don't actually use the bus as much, the Palani going down is the site where most of the riders get off. It is this intersection between King K and Palani, I would say, is the most practical site giving today's ridership. Future ridership is something else, but people get off somewhere, typically in that area, and then they'll walk. But I realize the access issues absolutely behind there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Stefan. Great input. Okay, anybody wish to speak on site 4? Any raised hands, any chats?
I don't see any.
Okay, then let's go on to site 5.
It's just pretty congested already right there. You
Yeah.
know, it already really has the lockup during the crawl. So that would just be something to take into consideration. You'd be crawling back out into it. As much as we want a hub to be central, sometimes it's better if it's kind of just right next to the central because it's the hub, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that comment. That's a good one. Site 5, the park and ride near the Kamehameha Hotel, owned by HHK Hawaii LLC. You see the street view from Kuakini Highway on the lower left, and you see the aerial map location. Any comments?
Courtyard.
Yes, Scott Cowley would like to comment. Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, can you hear me?
Great. There he is.
Can you hear me
Yes, go
good?
ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the general manager for the Courtyard King Kamehameha Kona Beach Hotel. This area right here is currently used for guest parking. And it's actually, you know, a good amount of traffic for commercial vendors of coming in and out of the hotel for supply delivery. I was kind of surprised to see a site that's very heavy in usage right now to be considered. What is the thought on the guest parking?
It would obviously become a shared use facility of some kind. It may indeed have more than one level. And that's the best I can say is there an opportunity for shared use?
Right, yeah, well, it sounds like it's a big build out to achieve that. A construction cost if you're going to be adding a structure like that. So that's the intention at this point, is to think about having a parking facility there as well.
Since you are needing it and using it currently for guest parking, we would need to accommodate that as well.
Right. Okay.
We're not looking to displace you. I don't think you have anywhere to go.
Yeah, no, it would be a huge issue for the community, especially with all the events that the hotel
Sure.
hosts throughout the year annually as well. And then you have Ironman. I think Ironman would probably throw a fit. So I just caution on that area. There's a lot of involvement already at this time versus some of those areas that are vacant lots.
And this is part of the process of comparing in looking at, you know, opportunities and sort of showstoppers for different
Right.
sites.
Right. So just some of the things to consider.
Very good, Scott, and thank you for being here. Your input is
Thank you.
valued.
Thank you.
Any other comments, or should I go on to site 6?
Nancy
Okay.
Sakamoto just commented, it is currently hotel parking that is not ideal from an access point in town as well. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, let's go to site 6 between Kuakini and the Kona Lane, owned by the state of Hawaii. You see the street view from the Kona Lane, and you see it's somewhat convoluted, but really not if you combine them. Ownership by county and state of Hawaii. So let's see if anybody has a comment on this location. Rebecca?
This is the one I mentioned before that I would anticipate your business owners in the area having very strong opinions on not transitioning that. Plus, I just see it's too much in the middle of everything in Kuakini. That would just cause, that is one of the few areas that we don't have major congestion with traffic. So I'd hate to see that accidentally become something we don't want it to be. I think you'd get a lot more pushback than you'd get praise with that location. Do you agree, Nancy? Yeah.
I was going to say, absolutely. We could use double or triple that in town currently, because there's times where there is just no parking available out there at all.
Mhm.
And the only parking in town.
Yeah.
I think Colette,
Other comments?
Yes, Council Member Inaba would like to say something, please. Go
Hi
ahead,
there.
Council.
Yeah, I do want to echo. I filled out the survey the other day, and I think I was able to support maybe 4 or 5 of the locations. I forget which numbers they are. Site 6 not being one of them, obviously for the reasons already expressed. But in general, I do want to point out, because it's not site specific, but it's just perspective, I guess, that some locations being proposed are, for example, behind the location behind Kona Commons. It is far off to one side of town. So the idea of hub and spoke, as I understand it presented to us, is that the hub is kind of very central. And when we have a hub that's way off, almost by the old airport, and you can't even get to the grocery store within a 10-minute walk, I think that's not very helpful to our community. So I think in general, as we think about these locations, if we can focus on the idea of what the hub is actually supposed to be, and something that's central, obviously not central at the expense of public parking like site 6. But some of the other sites, I think there was one along Henry Street near the new Safeway. Those are areas that are within walking distance of Sack and Save, of Longs, of Safeway, of more central. So that's just a general perspective I wanted to kind of mention as I did go through the survey myself.
Appreciate that. And I appreciate you filling out the survey. That's what we're looking for from everyone. Okay, let's go on to site 7, within the proposed Niumalo Marketplace. You see in the lower left, the street view looking south at the intersection of Alaho Street and Henry Street. And you see the potential location within the proposed Niumalo Marketplace. Comments?
Are they okay with that? Pretty built up already in there.
They are aware that we are putting this out for public comment.
Okay.
That's the best I can say.
Okay.
All owners were notified that their site was on this list and we'd be receiving public comments.
I have a question on this. Yeah, so my condo is right next to that red area. If you look down, the one with the pool right in there. So my front door is on that spot. And what Rebecca just said, it's this reddish area has just been built up, but it's not rented yet. So there's 3 commercial structures on it that are finished and at some point. So I guess, is it really that reddish area? Or are you looking at the whole green area near Mali Marketplace?
Well, if other characteristics of this site make it attractive, then that could be further discussion with the developer to say, okay, within your marketplace, is there a better location? This was separated by a roadway, so we flagged that one potential location. But Ala Moana Shopping Center has a transit center right, in the back side of it on Kona Street. We showed you the one at Mililani. It's not unusual to come to an agreement with a developer, but it's not a guarantee either.
No, I think if this is available, it'd be a great site, probably the best site from all of them because of the way the roads are laid out. It's walkable to everywhere. I just wanted to raise the fact that there are new buildings that have been finished in that very red spot. So.
That's important.
And they have oh gosh, Mrs. Schatz came and presented their master plan year before last. And so I'm not sure if you've seen the developer's full encompassing plan for New Malu, but in that corner, that sort of corner, I'm not sure if you've seen it recently, what's already built out with the Safeway and the other buildings, but kind of the only spots I have seen that don't have anything, there's not that much space there left. And I believe they had a gas station planned for in there somewhere. So I just don't know if logistically, so that would be something that could probably tell you pretty fast whether or not logistically it's possible. But
I just had to point that out because I went to the village commission, the design commission, and the gas island that was planned. That's a great suggestion. It's further up where the first road off Henry goes off or towards Lani House Shopping Center. That site, the village commission pushed back on the design plans because the roof would have been out of line with what they had originally agreed. The developer changed the plan on the roof line. So that has never been finished, even though weirdly, the gas price signs are already up, but no buildings. So that would be a wonderful site, or definitely a better option than the red mark area in terms of the way they built it out now.
Well, that's definitely an important conversation to have with their representative and the owner. I hear you. Yeah, I know that we had notified Linda Schatz that this meeting would be taking place, but I haven't. I didn't see her sign up. So, okay, at site 8. We're looking here across the street from what we just looked at and down the road a little bit. But it's Kikadia. This is the site, unfortunately, that we were informed over the weekend that they will be putting a hotel on. So it is probably not in play.
Yep.
Okay, let's go on to site 9. Would have been a nice site though.
I'm sorry, just quickly, the lot that's right next to it, there's a small triangle lot right next to that site. That one is owned by Kona LLC, I think, the same people that own the New Lani Shopping Center. Is that a possibility if this site goes away for the hotel? There's probably an egress-ingress problem and there might be a flooding.
It's also a culvert, I think. And
oh, it's a culvert, right? I see it. Yeah, I see it now. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going on to site 9, the former Kmart. You see the street view in the lower left from Kamakaya Avenue, and you see its location from the aerial view above Queen Kahumanu Highway. So reactions, sites, comments?
It'd be great to see that facility utilized, and it's such a, I mean, there's a huge parking lot, there's already a huge building, there's infrastructure in place. I don't know if QLT is interested, because, you know, I've had a number of people throughout the years be like, why don't they use it for a homeless shelter? And this is one of their commercial properties, so it has to make money in their portfolio. But I think this conversation could be really interesting. And while it doesn't sit right in the middle of the heart of Kona town, I think that that's where the spokes connecting
Would come in, yeah.
come into play, and getting people where they want to go in town, but having the bigger structure and facility of a hub, that could be really exciting. I just see that as potentially exciting.
Thanks, Rebecca. Stefan, you want to say anything?
Yeah, no offense, but I would like to push back on that. If you look at the progression of we always had somewhat of a hub in Kona, right? I mean, I first arrived in the island in the late 90s. There was the Kona Hilo bus would end at the Lani House Shopping Center, which is kind of the most natural space downtown. Then they moved it to Kmart, which was our hub for many years. Lived in Kealakekua for a while and used that as a hub to hop on. That was very inconvenient. It's a brutal walk from there to Palani. It's an uphill walk. Kamakea Avenue is kind of, it's a racetrack too for some of the kids. So it's really difficult. So then you're going to add on, and I can see the appeal of the site because the site is dying. It's empty. They even parked rental cars there during the pandemic last year. And so there's this, and then the courthouse is there, and it creates slowly more traffic. There were 3 or 4 riders at the courthouse yesterday. For a long time, there were no one. The buses turn around there. You don't show that. But I'd be hard pressed with that site because, you know, in Europe, nobody would put a hub into a location like that. And I'm sorry, I'm biased, having grown up on public transportation in Europe. I know in some of the cities in the American West, it's done. Las Vegas has a very strange hub that's not nowhere near the strip, and you can access it, but then you need another bus to go to the strip. And so for certain groups of users, that's super inconvenient. On the other hand, it's a big, nice hub that's air conditioned, it's got toilets, everything. So I don't know. So no offense intended, but I would hope it wouldn't be Kmart unless that area gets built up as a whole. And there's more attention back up there, but I don't see it with Niomali Marketplace drawing the attention down south.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on to site 10, Makalapua project, Queen Liliuokalani Trust Estate again. You see the street view, you see a lot of it being vacant right now, but there's, you know, great plans for this area. And the question is, you know, can it be configured into their plans? Nancy?
For this area, there is a cultural site right there that has just been, they just refurbished it and blocked it off right on the north side corner. So I don't think that's going to be an appropriate use there at all. The one that's right below, that's marked in red here, the one, yes, right there. Yeah, that site will not be able to use it.
Are you familiar with the rest of the site within the green outline?
Really, we looked at that and said, I just don't think it's a good area coming in and out of Loloku there. And Luhia, I mean, it's just a, even that area of Kuakini, it just is a busy, congested area in there. So when you talked earlier about having to go in and backtrack, I'm not sure how this area would work.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the last site unless anybody has something to add on site 10. Jack? Jack has a comment. I can't see the whole thing. Has there been any? I've lost the comment. Joanna, can you read it?
Yes. Has there been any consideration given to developing a temporary use hub proof of concept without committing to all the hard facilities and fixed investments to test out popularity of hub and public acceptance of convenience? Just a comment for consideration.
Okay. I'll make note of that, but unfortunately, some of the requirements that go with having even a temporary facility, such as ADA accessibility, you're already into some heavy investment and even on a temporary. But we had looked at that in Pune, whether or not we could have a temporary location while we were building our permanent location. So it's not off the table if we found something that worked that way. Okay, so site 11, the new road connector for the subdivision at Keahole near Huggos. You see the street view off of Kuakini Highway, and you see the location of the site, which is owned jointly by KPC Villages, Bishop Trust, and Cascabella Land Equities. Any comments or knowledge about this site?
Bless you. At the end of the last administration, Roy Takimoto came and did a great presentation for us, kind of with the status of the projects that had been underway. And there was a slide about Oneo Lane and the plans for this that had some more information and more specifics. If that's something that would be helpful to you, I would gladly share that with you. It may provide parameters that make this attractive or less attractive. But as I said, I know the Chamber of Commerce and the Kailua Village Business Improvement District and a number of people for many years have been really visioning for a Malcolm Mackay connector road to go in there, with even the potential of one-way Ali'i Drive, allowing for, you know, more traffic flow with just one lane, which allows for more pedestrian safety in the areas that we don't have walking areas on the side of Ali'i Drive. So just things to consider. And I will try and pull that up for you and get that for you, Cheryl.
Yeah, can you send that to Joanna Herkes?
Okay, sure. We'll send that to you, Joanna.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
So we've gone through all the sites, and I'd just like to back up and see if there's any additional feedback. You have until, for this round of public input, you have until the 24th of April to continue with your comments on our website. And, but I like doing the live version too. So if there's anybody who wishes to say anything before we move to closing the meeting, I'd love to hear it.
Just thank you.
Any hand raises?
Rebecca?
I just wanted to say thank you again. It was really helpful. I was able to print out your decks prior and take a look through them. They are posted there on your website. I love the flyer. I was able to email that out.
Thank you.
Social media. So you guys have made this very accessible for those that want to participate. Thank you for everybody also for being here. Those that were able to join us today.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's very important, someone in your position who knows the community, that the help you give in spreading the word and speaking for your community is treasured.
That's the job.
Yeah, it's the job, but you do it well. I would also like to mention, if you think of or already have thought of additional sites, we're just as equally interested. You've given us a few ideas along the way, but we'd really like to know about any additional sites at this phase of the project. Stefan, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I just also wanted to thank you guys. This is fabulous. You know, this is very encouraging to see that we're having this discussion. You know, public transportation is pretty much the only hope, you know, to get a dent into the explosion of rental cars that we all see. That within the last 2 or 3 years, it's crazy. You know, since my front door is on Henry, I count sometimes, and I would say it's 60% of the cars coming down there now are rental cars. Last year, of course, none. And then I also wanted to quickly say how happy I am that you guys have, or we all have Brenda, you know, we just have to say that since Brenda took over,
Wow.
it is day and night, you know, and when the Helion had trouble because before the Roberts contract went in and there weren't, you know, a lot of buses there, then Brenda personally posted schedule updates on the Helion website. And kept quite a few people from getting stranded there. So Brenda, I'm your biggest fan here. I don't know how many, you know, I see a lot of comments in West Hawaii today or in Herald Tribune, and people talk about the trouble with the buses and so on. The people who are saying this haven't been on a bus. You know, the Roberts buses are day and night, and just that needed to be said, you know, if
Brenda, do you want to accept your accolades, or are you too bashful?
Stefan, thank you so much. But and I appreciate that. But really, I have a village behind me, and it's really a team effort with the mayor, the directors, the council, SSFM. Everybody has just been wonderful. But thank you so much. But I really cannot take the praise myself. It really is everybody. Thank you.
Councilmember Richard, do you want to say anything? No?
No, I just wanted to say thanks for the presentation. Excellent presentation. And I appreciate that because I'm looking forward to when we're going to be building the Waimea hub. So we'll be talking about that later. But anyway, thanks so much.
Amen. Nice to see you all. Thank you for being here. We will continue the conversation. This input that we receive now will be summarized in a report to be given to the county, and it will be made available to the public as well. So, mahalo.
Aloha, thank you.
Thank you.